Command is ours. Maintain pressure. You're needed at B.
Hello folks, I've got some more leaks to provide you guys with from the most recent patch this past Tuesday. As I had suspected, each patch has a little bit of new information that I can compare to the one before it so that I can easily determine what Infinity Ward is working on. While there is still some old unused content like the things I mentioned at the end of my prior video, things that have been changed or are completely new can be easily determined to be in development. And boy, is there actually quite a bit in development. Infinity Ward is working quite well even in the current state of the world. There's some real surprises in here, but first let's start with something we already had an inkling about. First off, let's talk about the Galil. In case you missed it, this past Wednesday an official teaser was revealed that seems to showcase the Galil. Accordingly, development on it has continued to proceed at a good pace since I first saw the bits of it last week. The Galil now has a full set of attachments defined for it, and it also seems to have appropriate models, although I cannot get a look at them. Kiz, the scripter who helpfully provided the pictures of the Galil and MGL last week, has unfortunately been fighting some PC issues and won't be able to help us get a look right now. In case you missed those pictures by the way, check out the description, they do provide some insight on what to expect. While we might not have visuals right now, we do have names and descriptions that we can derive information from. Let's start with the barrels. Short barrel, FSS 8.3-inch intruder. Short, compact barrel sacrifices accuracy and range for speed and agility. Excels in CQB and room clearing. Light barrel, FSS 11.8-inch squall. No description yet. Long barrel, XRK Equinox S440. Achieve the pinnacle of range with this precision barrel from XRK. Superior muzzle velocity and stabilization at the cost of agility. Nothing too crazy here, just your standard options for different levels of range or agility. It's a similar story with the stocks, although we do not have descriptions for any of them just yet. Skeleton stock, CR56XO. Light stock, FTAC Spartan. Heavy stock, XRK Gatekeeper. And of course although it doesn't have a name, it does support a removed stock. The last thing to talk about is the magazines, which do provide us with a bit more information worth noting. 45 round mags. Extended magazines hold 45 rounds of 7.62 by 39mm ammunition with a slight weight increase. This confirms for us that the Galil will be firing the same cartridge as the AK-47, so that'll make it a little easier for either weapon to resupply ammo from the other in core modes. It also sets the tone for what to expect in damage, kinda, though I wouldn't expect them to be quite the same. And with a standard size like 45 rounds, I think we can safely guess that the base capacity will be 30 rounds. The next magazine is the interesting bit though. M67 10R mags. 10 rounds of 7.62 M67 ammunition designed for increased muzzle velocity, improved accuracy, and superior damage. Weapon defaults to semi-auto. According to my professional Wikipedia research, 7.62 by 39mm M67 rounds are a specialized cartridge developed to give the round a higher velocity and superior wound cavities and targets. Effectively, these magazines are a DMR conversion, which kinda fulfills my hope for a Galil's build to be possible. Hopefully the barrels complete the visual aspect of that. Anyway, that wraps up the Galil for now. Let's move on to the next thing we pretty much know to expect, the Vector. Or as Infinity Ward will be calling it, the Fennec. I'll be sticking with Fennec from here on out for consistency with the future when the weapon is fully released. The Fennec is a little bit further along than the Galil, with defined attachments, models we can't see, and icons that we can see. I'll be including those with each attachment, starting with the barrels again. However, keep in mind that I'm making educated guesses for which icon goes with which attachment, as there's not really any obvious links between them yet. Long barrel, ZLR 16-inch Apex. Heavy-duty extended barrel extends muzzle velocity and range to the max, but hinders mobility. Monolithic integrated suppressor, ZLR 18-inch deadfall. Monolithic integral suppressor keeps the weapon silent and increases range for longer distance stealth assaults. Both of these seem to be based on real-life barrel shrouds for the Vector, with the second likely being the CRB square baffle repurposed as an integral suppressor. The first, interestingly enough, seems to be an AR-15 handguard put over a long barrel, which is apparently a real thing that I could only find one very specific example of. Vector owners are weird. In addition to these barrels, we also have a unique huge suppressor for it, the same classification as the Odin's Colossus suppressor. Huge suppressor, ZLR Saber. Custom extended suppressor from ZLR greatly increases the muzzle velocity and reduces recoil to help with long-range precision. I think that visually, based on the icon, this might be the CRB cylinder barrel shroud, also being turned into a suppressor here. Next, stocks. Heavy stock, ZLR blade. Heavy stock, F-Tac C6 Carbine Pro. Just 2 levels of heavy stock so far, in addition to the obligatory no stock. Also, you'll notice that that's the Uzi's wooden stock for the blades icon. There's actually only one stock icon other than the default right now, and the blade has the Uzi's wooden stock set as a placeholder. While that's almost definitely not what we'll get when it's released, it's funny to me in a stupid way, so I'm rolling with it for now. Anywho, moving on to the magazine options. 40 round drum mags. Drum magazines hold 45 rounds of 41 APC ammunition, maximizing ammo capacity at the expense of mobility. Although it's described as a drum, the only appropriate icon I've got seems to just be a standard extended Glock magazine or something. Maybe it's a weird square drum like the ones that the MP7 has. The really strange thing here is the caliber, which I can only assume to be a typo. 41 APC is not an existing cartridge. There's 45 ACP, 41 AE, 41 Special, and so on, so I can only assume they mean 45 ACP. I'd sure hope so, because if it has a unique fictional ammo type and can't resupply from any other weapons, that would be kind of tough on a bullet hose like the Fennec should be. Also, yes, for some reason the magazine itself is labeled 40 but the description says 45. Another typo, I guess. However, assuming 45 is correct, then I would ballpark its capacity as also being 30 rounds. If it's only 40, then it may be lower at 25 or even 20. But moving on, the next magazine is a little interesting. 45 hollow point 12R mags. Gun mod for lightweight single stack 12 round magazines. Comes equipped with a 2-round burst fire mode and 45 ACP hollow point ammunition to ensure every shot counts. You might notice that this is copy pasted, word for word, from the Striker's hollow point rounds. Therefore it may be a placeholder, though I do think that this or at least something similar could be an interesting fit on the Fennec. The barrel parts in particular seem to be quite geared towards making a carbine build possible, something that is also not unheard of in real life, so if they could make this at all viable it could be pretty neat. I actually do have a bit of a spot of fondness for the Striker's burst fire. That reliable 2-hit kill is no joke. Lastly, on progress on the Fennec, we have some handling sounds now. They're nothing too crazy, just lots of nice and chunky plastic and metal getting slapped around. This'll be all the information on the Fennec that we have for now. Next, we have a little bit of information on something I didn't really expect to be talking about again so soon, and that's the XM109. It's not much, but it now has an official name like the Fennec. It's named the Ride-Tech AMR, with Ride-Tech being a completely new company name for the game that will be our Barrett equivalent. AMR, of course, is simply anti-material rifle. Like the rest that we've talked about, it does also seem like it has models in the game now, but of course I have no way to get a look at them right now. It's definitely a sign of progress that they're in there at all, though. Also, in addition to these details, we have a suppressed firing sound now. It's a pretty satisfying quiet little boom. It's not much, but this is more than the G28's got going for it. This was a surprise to me, but the G28 does not seem to have any progress appearing in this patch. No attachments, no name, and still no models. With that in mind, I think I was mistaken with my original guesses last week. While I do still feel pretty confident that the Galil and Vector will be our new weapons for the start of Season 3, and I think that it'll be the AMR that we get mid-season rather than the G28 based on the differences in development that seems to have been done for them so far. At least, that's assuming there isn't another completely new weapon appearing in this most recent patch. Yes, an even bigger surprise, there is the tiniest hint of one new weapon in here, and it's the AN-94. It has only a single brand new mention through all the game files right now, and that's a new set of soundbank references that have appeared, though without the sounds themselves. The AN-94 is an AK derivative rifle in 5.45 by 39mm, the same caliber as the AK-74 that it was designed to replace. In addition to a new cartridge, it also has a unique extremely fast 2-round burst. You might be familiar with it from its appearance in the Battlefield series. Although the real-life AN-94 also has a full auto fire mode, so does the FAMAS. I suspect that if Infinity Ward brings the AN-94 into the game, we'll probably see it as a dedicated burst fire rifle. I'd be quite interested to see how it performs, but truthfully speaking I wouldn't expect to see it in Season 4 at all with how early it seems to be. So, that's all we've got for guns for now. But those aren't quite the only developments for new weapons that we've got. We also have indications of new melee options, akimbo blades and akimbo batons. Information is sparse, aside from the names and that they exist now. I can also see that there is support for completionist camos on them. This makes me suspect they might be new weapons entirely rather than just blueprints for the knife, unlike the hatchet we got recently. To make an educated guess, the blades are probably the wakizashi that Ronin uses in his execution, while the batons may be the basic extendable batons that appear in the default SAS executions. However, in a few places the batons are specifically referred to as kali sticks, referring to the solid wooden sticks used in the Philippine martial art of arnis, called simply bastone. Neat. These apparently already exist in a currently unseen execution for Iskra, as her only execution right now uses the same wakizashi as Ronin. I have to admit, as someone who has seen how stupid melee weapons can get in the Black Ops series, this is a little worrisome to me. I just hope that they don't function too differently from the existing knife, because a few inches of lunge distance can make a big difference in performance. And that wraps up weapons for everything this week. It's quite a bit more than I expected to see, and the AN-94 is a neat surprise. Now of course there's more content in the season than just weapons. We also get maps and operators. For maps, there's our new text tokens that indicate 5 new multiplayer maps: Garden, Broadcast, Oil Rig, Scrapyard, and Harbor. Additionally, there's quite a good handful of new gunfight maps: Drainage, Townhouse, Train, and Trench. There isn't a whole lot of information in the game but the names, but we can draw some conclusions. Broadcast is of course a Modern Warfare 1 map that is also featured in Warzone, so there's nothing too surprising there. Oil Rig is probably the Modern Warfare 3 map offshore. Scrapyard is a Modern Warfare 2 map that is already contained within the Jokov Boneyard Ground War map, and likewise in Warzone. A lot of folks seemed pretty convinced it would be in Season 3, but it looks like it'll probably be in 4 if it's getting a name now. The gunfight maps are a lot more mysterious, though I believe that Townhouse will be something like the house that is featured within the campaign level Clean House, as that level is internally referred to as Townhouse as well. I also should note that there's a ton more unreleased maps, such as the pictured Exclusion Zone, but currently only these other maps I just named have received new and specific names within this patch. This a lot of maps, especially the gunfight maps, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't quite see all of them in Season 4, but there should definitely be a good quantity of content even without 1 or 2 of these. However, while there are likewise a couple of unreleased operators, there are a few in particular that I can see getting actively worked on. The first should be no surprise. It looks like Captain Price will be coming. He appears in the same teaser as the Galil, so it's pretty much a given in his case. Accompanying him will be Kyle Garrick from the campaign, Our Reborn Gaz. It seems that rather than Gaz or even Garrick, he'll just be identified as Kyle. I don't know why, but that's really funny to me. These two have a ton of voice acting already done and more even being added this most recent patch, as well as animations for the operator selection menu. In less complete states, but still getting work done, are 2 new characters whose names, shortened to 4 characters, are Rose and Wood. Guessing at their names, I'd figure maybe Rosenthal and Woods. One interesting theory that came up in a conversation recently is that Woods might be the Frank Woods from the Black Ops series. A random guess at first, but as I thought about it, there have been rumors lately that the bunkers in Warzone are a long-form tease for the new Black Ops game, which is apparently going to be a reboot for the series just like Modern Warfare. If that's true, this might actually turn out to be the case. At any rate, like Kyle and Price, these two have had some new dialogue appear in this patch. In addition, there are a few new names appearing that are meant for the operator biography screen: Farah, from the campaign, Hooper, Kato, Lynch, Nebo, Quinn, Stoli, Trig, and Yandi are all new names that show up here. Just like with maps, I can't guarantee all if any of these will show up anytime soon, and it's a lot of names that don't appear anywhere else. They could be anyone, and they could be no one. It seems like we'll be getting unique banners and emblems for achieving different completionist camos per weapon, and boy I'm hoping those get a separate menu or something because those menus are already cluttered enough as it is. These appear to already all be finished, and it's obviously a shitload of images because it's 3 emblems and 3 banners for every weapon in the game, so you can check them all out in an imager album in the description. It doesn't appear that these banners and emblems will be unlocked just by earning those relevant camos, but instead by new challenges that I suppose only become available with the camo. The challenges vary per weapon class and per camo. For example, the SMG Damascus challenge is to get kills while prone, and the Obsidian challenge is to get kills while sliding. These vary by weapon class a good bit, so I've also attached a paste bin of all the challenge types in the description. Some of them are not so obviously labeled on which they're for, so it's a little bit of guesswork to draw those connections. Don't be surprised if it isn't all correct. The emblems, by the way, are animated, with a cute little shine effect. I've made this handful I'm showcasing animated for this video, but I'm way too lazy to put together a badge for ImageMagick or something to do it for all of them, so they're in their raw sprite sheet format in the album. And if you're curious, no, unfortunately no unreleased weapons appear in these at all just yet. All of this apparently makes up a new weapon mastery progression system, with the challenges all being classified as kills, headshots, and skill challenges. This all culminates in an ultimate reward, but it's anyone's guess right now what that is. A neat new camo, maybe? A unique blueprint would be great, but that feels like above and beyond what to reasonably expect. For co-op, there is a big pile of weird new modifiers for even more modified special operations. These range from interesting tweaks to functionality, such as grounded where reloading will make you lose any ammo still in the magazine, to really wacky stuff like Pass the Buck, where every minute a randomly chosen player has to keep killing enemies, or they will explode. Someone at Infinity Ward is having a lot of fun coming up with these. With Gamemodes, we have a new mode coming for Warzone. Juggernaut. Teams compete to get Juggernaut crates and win a battle royale match. There is also Jailbreak, where it appears that everyone in the gulag automatically redeploys at set times. And finally there's TDM Anywhere, which has no other details but the name. Maybe a 50-on-50 team deathmatch on the Warzone map. Or maybe just a more straightforward deathmatch with squads. One interesting minor detail is that, with the opening of Bunker 11, we've gone from playing on the map MP_Donetsk to MP_Donetsk 2, and there's an entry for MP_Don 3, presumably for the finale of this event. It'll be interesting to see if anything else shows up here. And that's everything for now. It ended up being quite a bit to talk about, and that's pretty exciting. This video got delayed quite a bit by my own PC issues, and honestly it was super tempting to just give up instead of having to rewrite everything, but there's just too much information here for me to just sit on forever. If there's another major patch this Tuesday I'll have more to talk about, but I'd be surprised if we got 2 weeks in a row of content dumps, especially now that the Season 3 roadmap has been fulfilled. So, in all likelihood, I'll see you guys in another week in Season 4 when we'll have some of this new content, and I can hopefully take a peek at what the state of the rest of it is and more. Later.
What a faggot. I think I'm just too good.
Let's have another.
Scary.